Hello there and welcome. In this video we're going to learn how to upload our library to JitPack, and after that how we can actually use this library in any project that we want. Now I'm going to assume that you already know what JitPack is, but if not, it is just a remote repository that you can upload your code into, and then you can use this code in any project that you want. You can also share this code with other people from around the world, and this is what we're going to learn today. So we're going to start by creating a new project. We're going to just choose an empty activity and we're going to give it a name. I'm going to name it 𝗚𝗏𝗿𝘀𝗶𝗵𝗋 and we're going to finish. The next thing we want to do is create the actual library. So it's going to be a separate module that is going to contain all the code that we want to publish to JitPack. So I already created this module, but a way for you to create a new module in your project is simply by going to File, New Module, and you're going to select an Android library and you're going to give it a name. So the name that I gave it was 𝗚𝗏𝗿𝘀𝗶𝗵𝗋, okay? And then you're going to finish and it's going to create this module over here that is going to be our library. Now, I also placed some code inside the library so we can actually test it out and see if it works. So inside, I created a few packages, and inside of these packages, I just created a few utility classes. So we have a logger, we have some connectivity checkers, we have some extensions. So we have a few utility classes over here. So then when we upload this library to JitPack, we can see if the code is working. So we do want to have something inside. It doesn't really matter. You don't need to know what are these files. You're going to have your own code inside. Now, before we upload this library to JitPack, we also want to add something inside the build Gradle of our library. And this is something optional. If you want to test your library and you don't want to publish it each time to JitPack and then change the version of the library and create a new release, it's something that takes some time. So you're not going to do it each time you fix something inside your library. It's not efficient and you want to do it faster. So in order to test your library, we can simply publish it locally to see if the library works the way we want it to work. So we can simply add the Maven publish plugin, and then at the bottom we can add this script that will basically just publish our library to a local repository on our computer. Okay, and then using this MavenLocal publish script, we can go to Gradle over here, open our library, find the publishing, and run this publish to MavenLocal task. So when we publish it, it will simply take our library and place it locally on our computer, and then we can consume it from any project and test if the library actually works the way we want to. So it's some kind of simulation before we actually upload it online, because if we want to upload this to JitPack, it takes a bit more time and it's really not something you want to do each time you test your library, okay? So for example, we made a small change over here and we want to see if everything is working. We're simply going to double click on this publish to MavenLocal. It's going to publish our library locally and it will take less than a minute. Of course, it depends on the size of the library, but it's going to be very quick. And now you can also find the actual files locally on your computer. I'm going to show you where it actually sits. The important thing is that it is actually published and we can now consume it from other projects. So if, for example, we're going to open a new project and this project will be just for testing to see if our library works. So we can go to settings and add MavenLocal as a new repository. Then we go to the actual dependencies and we add the name of our library over here like we do with other libraries, okay? So the way we construct this is if we go into our actual library, we can see this group ID, the artifact ID, and the version. So we simply take the group ID we put this column over here, we take the artifact ID, another column, and we take the version, and then we surround all of this and make it into a string, and then this is the name of our library. So we're going to copy this, and over here, we're simply going to paste it. Now you can see that I changed the version, so this is just a different version, so it's going to find this version. So this way, each time you create a new testing version, you can just increase the number. But that's not important. If you're going to leave it with the same version, it's simply going to override the old one. But this is just for testing. So now, when I'm going to do this and I'm going to sync, it's going to find this library from this local repository, and then we can use all of these files inside this project. So let's say logger service, and you can see the name of our library. So now it actually goes into our computer and looks for this library that was published locally. And this is a very fast and quick way to test changes in our library. Now we're going to see how to actually publish our library online to JitPack, because with this local repository, we can only use this library from projects that are installed on this computer, but we cannot use the library from other computers or from other parts of the world, right? So that's why we need JitPack. So back into our project, we only need to add one more file, and if we change to project view, we need to add this JitPack YML file, and we simply click over here, new file, and we name it JitPack YML, and then it's going to create this file, and inside you simply need to add this JDK, open JDK11, and this has something to do with telling JitPack which JDK to use to compile the code, because when we upload this to JitPack, JitPack actually compiles the code, and then we can use it from our projects. So this is important. Without this, it will not work. Now, JitPack is working with GitHub. So first we need to upload our project to GitHub, create a repository, and I assume that you already know what GitHub is, because if you're in this stage of your Android development journey, you probably already know what GitHub is, and you probably already have some repositories over there and you're using version control. If you don't know what GitHub is and you want to learn and you want to know how to publish your project to GitHub, I also have a video that I'm including in the description of this video. But we basically just want to create a repository in GitHub and publish this project. So we can do it easily by going to Git, and then there's going to be an option to enable version control. It's going to create a local Git repository over here, and then we can simply go to GitHub, share project on GitHub. Now, of course, you need to provide your credentials, your GitHub credentials, and then it's going to share this project to your GitHub account. So inside GitHub, you're going to find your project. We're going to open it, and you're going to see all of these files. Now, this is very important. When you create your repository, you do want the name to be the same name as the library. Otherwise, JitPack will get confused sometimes and it may not work the way you want to, okay? So even if your actual project is named something else, you do want your library to be named exactly like the name of the repository in GitHub, okay? Because then JitPack will go over here, it will look for the name of the repository, and then it will look for the same name inside the project. We don't want to publish our app. We want to publish this module, okay? So just make sure that it has the same name. Now, to use this project, we need to make it into a release. So the way we create a release is by going over here and just creating a new release. I already have a new release, but we can click on releases, and you're going to see this draft a new release. If you don't have any releases, it's going to say create a new release. So you simply click on this, you choose a tag. Usually it's the name of the version. So we're going to change it to I already have 1010, right? That's the one that I have. So I'm not going to create a new one, but you need to just add a new tag over here. You can give it a title and you can give it a description. And then you're going to publish this release. So I already did that, and this is what I got. We have the source code of our project and we have this release. Now JitPack is going to connect to your GitHub account and it will look for this release, okay? So you have to make it into a release. Now we can actually go into JitPack, and over here you're going to log in. You're going to have an option to log in, and it will automatically ask you for your GitHub account. You're going to provide the permission to connect to your GitHub account. Maybe you also need to provide the credentials. Usually if your GitHub account is already opened, then it's going to do it automatically. But then you're going to get logged in, and both of these accounts are going to be linked. So now you need to find your actual repository over here. So we have this ultimate utility box. And then we can see that there is this release over here. In the beginning, it's going to search for it. It's going to build it. So it may take a few minutes until it actually builds the repository. But when it's done, you're going to see this piece of paper and it's going to be green. If you're going to see it with a red color, it means that something went wrong, okay? Maybe you forgot to include the YML file, maybe you didn't give the same name for the repository and the actual library, so something is wrong. But if you see it green like this, and it says status okay, it means that everything is good and you have this release over here. Now, the way to use this library from different projects is easy, and it also explains what to do. So we simply need to add JitPack into our repositories, and we also need to provide the name. Now, unlike the name of the library we had with MavenLocal, now we have a new name. We have this name of the actual GitHub account, and then the name of the library, and then this tag. And the tag is actually the version that we created over here, right? You can see the tag over here. So I said v1.0.0. Of course, you can name it whatever you want. Usually we give it the version of the release. So usually you're going to do something like 1.0.0. So the tag over here is this tag that you created. So we're simply going to copy this, okay? This Maven URL JitPack, we're going to copy this. And we're going to open a new project. So let's say this is some kind of remote project that you want to consume the library that you just uploaded. So we go into settings, and over here inside the repositories, we will simply add this Maven JitPack. Okay, so we simply say that we want to use JitPack as a repository the same way we use Maven Central and MavenLocal that we added and Google. So we're going to sync. And now we will go over here, and the same way we added and used this library from the local repository, we want to use it from the remote. But of course, the name is going to change. So we're going to copy all of this. We're going to paste this. We're going to comment this out because we don't want to use the version that is locally on our computer. We want to use the remote version. So you're not going to change anything over here, but you're going to change the tag. And in my case, it's going to be v1.0.0, okay? Because the tag for this release is the tag that I created over here. And you can also see your tags over here. So now we're going to sync, and it's going to consume the library, and we're going to be able to access it in this project. So this is a separate project, right? We don't have the library over here. And if you're going to go to another PC, or you're going to send this line of code to a coworker in another country, he will still be able to use your library. Okay, so let's sync. And now if we go to the actual main activity, so for example, we have this Boolean callback, and you can see the name of our library. right at the bottom. So it's basically using this class, but it takes it from this library, and we don't have this class anywhere inside our code. We also have other classes over there. For example, we have this single event class that is used to wrap different live data events. And you can see that it's from GitHub and the name of the library, and it uses it inside our project. So we know that it actually works. Now, I actually had a small problem with this release. I published a few more files, but for some reason I didn't make them public. I made them private. So now I can't even access them. And that's why it's very good to test your library locally first, and then only when everything is working and you're satisfied, then you can upload it to JitPack. Otherwise, it's going to take some time to create a release. So later, when I'm going to add a few more things inside this project and I'm going to be satisfied with it, I'm just going to change the version to something else and I'm going to create a new release. Now, don't get confused. This version over here has nothing to do with the release over here. This is just the version for the local publishing that we created for testing, okay? So it has nothing to do with JitPack. This is just for MavenLocal. So because we have this logger and because when I created the first release, it was private, now I made it public, and now we can actually create a new release and use it from the other project. Because if we go over here and we try to find this logger service, there is no logger service inside our library, okay? So let's do it together. Let's create a new release. We simply go back into our project, and then we see that everything is the way we want it to be. And then we are going to commit all of these changes and we're going to push it to GitHub, okay? So let's close all of this, Git, and we're going to commit, and we see that there are a few changes. Let's say commit 5, just for testing, commit and push, and now it's going to commit all the changes and push it to GitHub. Okay, so let's push. And this is like a standard push into GitHub, right? It has nothing to do with JitPack, but we need this version to be in GitHub before we upload it to JitPack. So now that everything is in GitHub, let's go back into GitHub and we can see this commit number 5 just for testing, okay? So we have the newest version and we want to create a new release. So we go to releases, draft new release, and we're going to name it 1.0.1. And we're going to, well, it's actually the tag we want to use. Okay, create new tag. And we're going to give it a name, second release. And over here, we're going to say the logger is now public. Also added a few more utility classes. Okay? Just for you to know what are the changes inside this new release. So we're going to publish this release. And now we can see that we have 2 releases, first release, second release, and now we can go to JitPack. So it may take a few seconds until you actually see the new release over here if you just created the new release. But now we can see this new release. Let's click here, get it, and you can see now that it's going to build this new release. And when this is over and we see this kind of green file, it means that the release is ready and we can use it inside our projects. So let's wait a few seconds or a few minutes. It really depends on the size of the library. It depends on the changes. Okay, so it took about 4 minutes, but now it's ready. And nothing has really changed over here. The only thing that changed is the actual tag. So we know that the tag is 1.0.1. So we go back into our consuming application, right? And we go over here and we change it to 1.0.1 and we remove this V. So this is the only change we need to do. And now we sync again. And if we go to the main activity, we can now access this logger service file and we can use the network status checker, which is a class that checks if we have internet connection. So all of these are located inside our library and not inside this project, and we can use them, okay? So now you know how to upload your libraries to JitPack. So that's all for this video. If you have any more questions, if you're trying to do something specific and you don't know how, you can ask me. Of course, if you have ideas for other videos, other topics, please let me know and I'm going to create these videos. So thank you for watching. Please subscribe if this was helpful. Leave a like so more people will get exposed to this video, and see you next time.